Chopper Bob Customs. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you've subscribed, thanks for being a subscriber. If you haven't subscribed, hey, what's the problem, man? Get subscribed. I like to be liked, so like the videos. If you got any comments or questions, be sure and put them in the comments section. I try to get back to folks as quick as I possibly can. And hit that notification bell, because there's lots of interesting stuff that's coming up. Let me do a quick adjustment here. I'm a little bit crooked. Anyway, today I'm working on the 57 Chevy. I got a lot of work to do on this car. Engine swap, transmission swap, dash, instrument cluster swap, shifter installation, MSD installation, a lot of stuff along those lines. New radiator, new gas tank, fuel injection. So there's going to be a lot of videos on this 57 here. What I'm doing today is brakes and suspension. And let me start off by saying this is not a video that's going to show you everything you need to do on brakes and suspension. So if you're qualified to do them, hopefully there will be some tips and tricks, maybe some entertainment. But if you're not qualified to do them, please don't. Maybe this will inspire you to go out and take some lessons at a Votech class or something like that, learn how to work on your car. It also might show you why it does cost so much to have somebody that knows what they're doing do it. And I may not know everything about it, but I've been doing this kind of stuff for 50 years. So anyway, and of course, when I started out, I didn't necessarily do a great job, so we won't talk about that. But so what I'm going to be doing today, he's getting tubular upper and lower control arms, coilover shocks, and all new steering work, and Wilwood disc brakes. So that plays into a lot of what is going to be done today. As an example, this is an impact hammer with a pickle fork on it. I would not recommend using these on parts that you're going to have to reuse. But since all of these parts are going to be going into the scrap heap, you'll be seeing me use it quite a bit. For one thing, on just about every one you use it on, it's going to tear up the rubber boot that holds the grease into the fitting. And depending on how badly it tears it up, you may and if you can't find a new boot, and some of the Chinese ones that I've been finding last for maybe a year, so this is handy, but it can also leave you with a lot of mess. So you'll see me using that today, but for now I'm going to get started. I'm probably going to do this fast, so if you, like I said, if you got any questions about any of the steps that I'm going through here, or if you got any comments on, you know, I'm always learning. Even after all these years, I still learn stuff. So if you got any comments to tell me that, hey, there might be a better way to do what I'm doing, I'm all for that too. So anyway, let's get started, and enjoy the music. Okay, so with that, everything's tore off the car. As you saw on that last one, I didn't have to use a pick fork, I didn't have to do nothing. I had to take the nut off of it and it fell out. And of course, this one right here, I had to beat on it to get it out as well as using the pickle fork. So sometimes they're not put together tight, and sometimes they're put together way too tight. But this is going into the trash. The next step I got to do is, well, I still have some time. I'm going to get the spindle and the steering arm cleaned up so I can put some paint on it. I've got to decide whether I want to videotape that or not. Anyway, one way or another, I'll be right back with more good stuff. Okay, so real quick while you were gone, you may be wondering why I didn't take the idler arm and the center link out. I've got new idler arm bearings, and I've got a new center link and a new pitman arm actually. But the reason that I haven't taken those off yet is because somebody, I don't know who, put a Ford power steering box in this car. And the owner doesn't want that. I don't blame them. And what we're going to do is we're going back with a OEM style box. It's a new one by, is it Lares, L-A-R-E-S, I think it is. And he's going to put a Speedway steering column in it. And so I'm going to have to do some modifications to the stock box, the input shaft. But I want to get the engine out of there so I have room to work on all that. And so that's why I haven't done anything with the idler arm, center link, and pitman arm. So now, what I've done also while you were gone, oh, it'd be nice to have a good cleaning system. Basically, I clean these in a solvent wash tank by hand with a brush. And I spared you all of that because I think Oklahoma red dirt and 67-year-old chassis grease is currently being tested to see if it's an acceptable replacement for welding in certain applications. It's just some nasty stuff, which is one of the reasons why I don't wanted to clean them up and get a little bit of paint on them. So in between the brand new tubular upper and lower control arms, it didn't look like it was a piece of junk stuck in there amongst all the Wilwood and tubular stuff. But it's obviously not a show quality paint job, as you can see. I didn't clean them up. It doesn't have any bite for adhesion. I'm just plugging the holes up with dirty old shop towels to keep the dirt out of the holes, the tapered holes and the bolt holes. The one thing that I did do was I did tape off a couple of areas on the spindle itself. Basically, obviously, where the hub rides, that all needs to be plain steel. Up at the top, where the big bolt goes in, and then down at the bottom, I actually put the Wilwood adapter bracket on there and cut it out with a razor blade. I don't know whether it's all that critical, but I just don't like the idea of paint which can degrade, compress in between the engineered parts that bolt to it and the actual parts. So I've gone ahead and masked that off, but the rest of it is just, like I said, just kind of quick and dirty, and that's what we're going to go with. Okay, with that, I'm going to set it in the sun to get a good dry on, and we'll get back to work on the car. Okay, I'm going to stop here for just a second. Wilwood puts yellow warning sheets in just about every package that they put out. It all says basically the same thing. If you don't know what you're doing, don't work on the brakes. Excellent advice. The thing is, it gets to the point where you just take the yellow papers and you throw them away and you don't pay attention to them. You can't do that, and I'll tell you why. This package has the yellow paper in it. And what this one says is, it probably says, you don't know how to work on brakes, don't work on brakes. But it also says that these bolts right here, that this instruction sheet says to torque to 45 foot-pounds. This one says disregard the instruction sheet and torque them to 25 foot-pounds. So somewhere along the line, Wilwood determined that the 45 foot-pounds torque was too much for these bolts, and they backed it off, and it says 25 foot-pounds of torque, and it's underlined, of course, with the 271 red Loctite, and then it says, this supersedes the value listed in the installation instructions. So, while they say that nobody but somebody that is familiar with doing brakes should do the brakes, you gotta understand something, because we've been doing brakes for a long, long time. We have a tendency to get a little bit, hey, I know how to do this. And on mom and dad's grocery getter, that's you probably do. But on these specialty items that have been engineered by somebody for the aftermarket, you really need to pay close attention, and that's why you see me working with the instruction sheet right here. Is even though I know how to do brakes, they have specific torque specifications on all this stuff, and I'm following it as close as I can so that it's installed the way Wilwood intended it to be installed. Just my little soapbox. But pay attention, because like I said, if you were to take the instructions for this right here, you would over torque these bolts. Okay, so I borrowed two T40s from Rockin' Robin, and we're gonna see, hopefully I don't break either of these, but let's see what happens here. Okay, so with the bearings packed, and I hand packed them, I'm kind of old school on that. I know not very many people hand pack them anymore, but I do, primarily because I don't have a packer. But so basically what I've got here is with the spindle and the steering arm and the spindle nut are the 57 Chevy parts. The rest of it are either the tubular control arms or the Wilwood parts, and even the washer on the spindle. That is a special small diameter washer because the aluminum cap that goes on there is thicker than the steel cap, and so you have to use this special washer that will clear that cap. So with that, I'm going to pause for just a second here. I'm going to go get some paper towels and some channel locks and dial indicator, and I'll be right back. Okay, so what you do is you tighten the nut up until it's snug, and then you make sure that you're spinning it, because you want to make sure that you're riding with the rollers on the inner race and the outer race. You don't have any grease in there giving you a bad reading. And so you're going to go a little bit tight until you feel some drag on the rotor when you're spinning it, just to make sure you have all the grease out of there. And then you back it off. And what I usually try and do is go to the second cotter pin. See if you got some play. Usually when I'm running a stock hub and a stock spindle, I usually try to hit as close to zero clearance as I can, maybe even a little bit interference fit. The reason being for that is when this heats up, when you got loads on it, you don't want to have slop in the bearings. However, since this is an aluminum hub, and it's a high performance unit, you've got differences in thermal expansion. What Wilwood wants you to have is somewhere between 1 and 7 thousandths. And I can hear it moving back and forth, but I just want to make a quick check. And I'll admit this is very hard to check because it there's no good place to attach this. So bear with me here and I will see if okay, that's about 3,000. So that's about right in the center of what Wilwood wants you to have there. And you can feel it. You can feel it hitting back and forth on that. So I'm getting a little bit of variance because I'm not able to completely stop the rotor from turning. But I've got about 3 thousandths right there. So I'm calling that good if the cotter key will fit. That's the other part of the equation that you have to work through, is whether or not we can get a cotter key. I think since I got it on that one, I'm going to go this way. Oh, like butter. Okay, so with that, I'll go get the dikes and get that set up, and then all that's left is to screw the cap on, and the rotor will be installed, and then we can move on to the brakes. Okay, so now it's time to fit the caliper. What the instructions call for is to put 2 spacer washers in it and try that. I happen to have a pretty good idea that 2 might not be the correct amount, and so I'm going to try 3 to start. So what you do is you take your bolt with your washer, you slide it through, you put your spacers, your shims on there, you drop them all over the floor. And fooling around with these shims is probably the toughest part of this job. The truth of the matter is they sort of have a mind of their own. So, we're going to see how this is going to work. Okay, now the other thing that you got to remember is these shims are 35 thousandths. So with 35 thousandths shims, you're probably not going to get it perfectly centered. I'm saying 3's the ticket on this car. They're going to vary from car to car, but that's about 40 thousandths clearance between the shoes and the, I'm sorry, the pads and the rotor, inboard and outboard. I don't think you can get it any closer than that. So now it's time for the juggling net, because what you have to do is you have to pull the bolts out one at a time. Try not to drop the shim pack. .40 foot-pounds with red thread locker. And Wilwood uses these insert nuts on these brackets, and you'll set the torque up and then it will relax, and eventually it'll come in and it'll click every time. But in my opinion, you have to check them several times, and if they move just a little bit before it clicks, you're probably not there yet. But you'll eventually get to the point where it clicks without moving, and that's where I call it good. Okay, with the line cleaned out, reattached on the master cylinder side, I've gone ahead and chased the threads on the nut on this side, and I've got the adapter from the 3/16 inverted flare line to the, I think these are number, I can't remember what number they are, but they're AN 37.5 degree fittings on this end. So this adapter will go up in here like this. And probably what is the easiest thing to do is to get the nut started into it and then slide it up into place. Sometimes it's easy to do. Slide it up into place and put the retainer on it. Okay, so the brakes are basically put together. It needs to be bled. I've got one more thing to do here on the brakes. The brake hose itself, the frame mount is kind of boogered up, and it was difficult to get the clip on there, but I've got it good and securely mounted. I am going to tell the owner he'll need to keep an eye on it to make sure it doesn't pop out of there. But basically, I can't get it to pop out, so I'm hoping that's good. Got the line on, made sure that it doesn't really interfere with anything when it goes back and forth. And then the final bit of the brakes is this right here. Because the outer diameter of the wheel mounting surface is larger than the hub, Wilwood wants you to use the steel ring to spread out the load. It's drilled for 3 patterns, and so basically we're on the 4 3/4, 5 on 4 3/4. It's drilled for 5 on 4.5 and 5 on 5. So it's sort of a universal plate. You slide that on there, and then you slide the wheel on, and you're good to go. Okay, so I used the tie rod assembly that came off of the car to kind of approximate the length of the tie rod assembly here. Of course, this is superior to the stock one. It's got this nice solid adjusting sleeve with jam nuts, instead of the clamp type that came on this car originally. So what I'm going to do first is attach it to the steering arm on the spindle and snug it down. I'll do the final tightening once I get it hooked up. Now, this still has the old center link and idler arm in it that will be coming out, so the inner one, I'm just going to get the play out of it, and I'm not going to put a cotter key in it or anything because I'll be taking it back apart, but I want it together so that when I go to move the car, when I'm doing the engine swap, I'm going to be able to steer it. Okay, and I've got the play out of it, which is all I want back on the inner. Now I'll go ahead and tighten the outer one up. Okay. And you always want to be tightening. You never want to back the nut off once you got it tightened down. If you can't quite get to the hole, just eat your Wheaties and keep going. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and put the wheel on. Just snug those down because next I'm going to be pulling the transmission out and then pulling the engine out. Well, the first thing I'll probably do is clean this mess up. Pretty much looks like a car. But here we go. And we had to get new nuts because the Wilwood uses 1/2-inch studs, whereas the original 57 just had 7/16 studs. Okay, and I'll tighten those up. But for right now, let's get the other side done. Okay, so thanks for watching. This by no means is everything you need to know to install the brakes on a car. If you don't know how to do it, take some classes or pay somebody to do it for you. But I kind of wanted to show you what was involved in doing this, and if you do know, maybe I've shown you some tips and tricks. Maybe you can leave me some tips and tricks in the comments. But for now, thanks for watching the video. Like I said, the next video on the 57 will be the engine and transmission installation. And then, well, I think it'll be, no, actually what it'll be is, it'll be pulling the engine and transmission out, and then I've got to put the steering box in, I've got to take the power booster off of it, and that master cylinder, put on a new master cylinder, put in the new steering box, put in the new steering column, and the new gauge assembly. So that will be coming up in the next video on the 57, and then after that I'll be putting the engine and transmission in it, and the Sniper fuel injection on this one. This one's getting the Holly Sniper. So, again, please subscribe to the videos. Please hit that notification bell. Like the videos. Like I said, if you got any comments on what I can do better, let me know. If you got any questions, leave it in the comment section. I try to get back to folks as soon as I possibly can. And for now, Chopper Bob out.